Hello everyone, in this video session we are going to focus on chapter 2, planning research, and initially we need to have a look at the outcomes of our chapter. At the end of this chapter you will define concepts used in scientific research studies. You will also explain quantitative, qualitative and mixed method design, and finally you will be able to plan quantitative, qualitative and mixed method studies. First of all, we need to have a look at the scientific research process. As you know, it involves some steps such as problem identification, data collection, data analysis, interpretation, and report writing. And as for planning a quantitative research study, first of all, you need to identify the research problem. What is a problem identification? You can identify some problems in your daily life. Based on your observations and based on your experiences, you can identify some problems and you may think that these problems worth researching. And while constructing your research problem, you can present some questions. You identify the problem and then you ask a question. For example, is there a relation between states' national income and the budget they allocate for armament? This can be a good research question. On the other hand, you can also generate a hypothesis, which refers to an educated guess about the result of a problem or a temporary solution to a problem. A hypothesis and a research question, they are almost similar, but hypotheses are in a sentence format. For example, the first one, you see there was a research question. It was a question sentence, and the hypothesis is there is a relation between states' national income and the budget they allocate for armament. This is a hypothesis, and then you conduct a research and determine whether this hypothesis is confirmed or not. After the identification of a research problem, then you have to select your research design. In fact, the research design is used as an umbrella term on how you are going to conduct your research. That can be a survey design. For example, in a survey design, you have inferences about the population based on the data collected from the sample. Or that can be an experimental design. You can test or identify a variable's effect. This experimental design can be classical randomized experimental design. In such designs, you have two groups, a control group and an experimental group. You conduct a treatment on the experimental group, but you do nothing with the control group, and then you try to observe the effect of the treatment you conducted. Or that can be a post-test design group. You apply a pre-test, then you make a treatment, then at the end of this treatment you apply a post-test and you try to identify the effect of a variable. You can also benefit from repeated measurement design and multiple group design. After deciding on your research design, then you have to decide on your sample, your participants. Here we have two important terms. The first one is the population, which refers to group to which research results will be relevant. And sample is the group of participants you reach in your study, and it refers to it is a representative piece of the population whose features are examined. We have in the literature some commonly used sampling strategies, and they are random sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, and convenient sampling. These are the ways how you define and decide on your participants. After your participants are ready for your research, you try to arrange your data collection process. And here, an important term, we have data. It refers to all kinds of numerical values obtained via a method, technique, or instrument. And in quantitative research, we have primary data collection tools. They are usually tests and questionnaires. Tests are utilized to measure personality, skills, success, or performance. On the other hand, questionnaires are designed to obtain information about more than one feature of an individual. Both tests and questionnaires are commonly used in quantitative research studies. And after deciding on your data collection tools, you collect your data, and then it's time for analysis and interpretation. And in data analysis process, in quantitative research, the data is usually processed through descriptive and inferential statistical techniques. Of course, there are some important programs, some software programs to conduct these statistical techniques, but we have some common descriptive techniques here, such as frequencies, percentage, arithmetic, means, modes, medians, range, and standard deviation. Within the scope of descriptive techniques, you have to analyze your data using those simple methods. On the other hand, we have also some inferential techniques, and it changes, of course, based on the range of your data, whether it's parametric or non-parametric, and the tests you are going to apply will change based on this. For example, if your data is non-parametric, you can benefit from Mann-Whitney-Hu test. If it's parametric, you can conduct t-test to see the differences. And for qualitative research studies, as you remember from chapter 1, we have some significant differences between quantitative and qualitative research. Qualitative research focuses on the social phenomena in their natural environment, and the focus is on people's behaviors, their meanings, their actions, and interactions. And in qualitative research studies, again, we need to identify a research problem, and it is usually based on the literature or researchers' own personal or professional experience, and sometimes you can identify some social issues in the field. And while deciding on your research problem, you need to take the significance and feasibility into account. As a researcher, you need to think that whether my study is significant for the literature or not. Then you develop some research question. It is also different from the quantitative research, because here we have a how or what perspective. I mean, the aim here, the aim in qualitative research is to comprehensively understand the perceptions and the processes. This is why we ask how and what questions. For example, here we have what are individuals' perceptions about refugees is a good research question for qualitative research. And after that, you focus on your research design. We have a number of research design in qualitative studies, such as an action research, which is a cyclical and spiral process for change. You can have a phenomenological design and focus on the meanings attached by the individuals. You can have a case study and you want to search in-depth way. You can focus on the cases within the scope of your research focus in an in-depth way, and you can analyze the cases deeply, and this is called as the case study. If you can conduct an ethnography, and you can focus on the daily lives of individuals in their own social culture, or you can have a grounded theory design and you can develop a theory that would explain processes, actions, and the meanings attached by individuals to the social phenomena. After deciding on the research design, then it's time to select the participants. But compared to quantitative research, in qualitative research we have rather small number of participants, and they are usually selected through purposeful sampling strategies, such as typical case sampling, snowball or chain sampling, or criterion sampling, in which you define some criteria and you choose your participants based on these criteria. And then comes to the data collection process. And in qualitative research, as you may remember, the main data collection tools include observations, interviews, documents, and reflection reports, diaries. So you collect your data with the help of these tools. And in data analysis, we have no formula or statistical processes. We usually have a classical way of analyzing our data, which includes transcription of the materials. You interview with people and you transcribe them. Then you code the data. And then with these codes, you form some themes and You arrange and identify the data with the help of these teams. And the main purpose of this process is to use the voices of your participants while reporting your findings. And finally, we have mixed method research studies, which both benefit from quantitative and qualitative data sets, and they gather together to find an answer to a research question. As you may remember from qualitative and quantitative studies, we also have the same steps in mixed method research. You identify the research problem, you construct research questions, you decide on the participants, collect the data and analyze them. I mean, the process is the same, but the research designs may change in mixed method studies. For example, if you want to focus on the convergent design, you collect and analyze both qualitative and qualitative data at the same time. But if you want to present your study based on the explanatory sequential design, you first collect the quantitative data, and then based on your quantitative data, you collect your qualitative data. But in the exploratory sequential design, this is vice versa. First you collect qualitative data, then you collect quantitative data. And if you want to integrate an intervention into this research process, you benefit from the intervention design. And as you see in this brief video session, we focused on planning quantitative research studies. We also touched upon the elements in planning a qualitative research studies. And finally, we focused on how to plan and design a mixed method research study.